Moss Media production. Today we are super excited to welcome actress, illustrator, and writer Samantha Jayne. Samantha is the creator, writer, and artist of the uber popular Instagram and Tumblr account Quarter Life Poetry. They are poems dedicated to the inner thoughts that all of us 20-something experience at some point. This month her book Quarter Life Poetry was released, and it's definitely a must read for all of you. Definitely grab it.
Ah,
Welcome, Samantha. It's so good to talk to you today.
thank you for having me.
Oh, of course. It's our pleasure. Well, I want to first chat a little bit about your background and what kind of led you to coming up with this idea for social media.
Yeah, I was always interested in writing and doing illustrations. I have a fine arts background, and then I also started going through my 20s. So, I wanted to kind of figure out a way to connect with other people in my 20s, but have it be kind of lighthearted. Like nobody really wants to read really like drab, serious prose about, not being able to like get your first job. So something that really connects is humor. So, and that's usually how I communicate and how I like to connect with other people is just through jokes and humor. So it seemed like something pretty natural to do, and it was super fun.
Definitely. Did you always kind of write poems or want to write poems? Or did this just seem like the way to go about it?
I didn't grow up really writing poems. I wrote a lot. I wrote a lot in journals. I wrote like very true thoughts of how I was feeling. That, I just stacks and stacks of journals I would probably never share with anybody. But the way that I thought I could convey those thoughts is through poetry. And growing up, I was always such a huge fan of Shel Silverstein. He was like my absolute favorite poet,
Okay.
hands down. His poetry is just so funny and so relatable. It's not pretentious at all. It just really like connects with that childhood experience that you have, and it makes you feel like everything's okay. It's fine. It's all gonna be totally fine because it's in poetry and it's rhyming and it's funny. So it's not like some weird thing that you're going through. Because it's here, it's on the printed page, and you can share it, and you know you're not alone. So I think I took a lot of cues from that when I was kind of coming up with the idea for Quarter Life Poetry.
Okay. So the movement, which at this point it's basically a movement, of the hashtag the struggle is real or hashtag struggle. It's so
Yeah.
popular because it just speaks to everyone. It is so true. How did you kind of decide this was the path you wanted to take with your accounts, and make it something funny, true to life? Was it organic for you or?
I felt that, well, the first thing, it was kind of a journey to get to Quarter Life Poetry, actually. I began with more of a book, like a narrative in the style of a children's book, but it was the story of a girl going through a quarter life crisis.
Okay.
And then it kind of morphed into this Instagram account where it just kind of became these bite-sized little poems that you can share about like all different topics. So I thought that it could be, just something shareable, something, you don't have to like read this whole book in order to figure it out. And I thought, Instagram, like that would be a really good way, and Tumblr would be a really good way to share with everybody so they can use the poems for themselves to share with their friends.
Absolutely. Did you ever have kind of that moment of like, wait, this is happening right now? Like this is working, this is catching on. How?
Yeah, yeah. I was not expecting anybody to start following. I think at the beginning, I had about like 150 pity followers from my friends where I was like, hey guys, you should check this thing out that I'm doing.
Right.
I, I had really wanted to get my initial book published. And, the best way to do that is to, according to my literary agent, start some sort of blog.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, what? I have to start a blog? She said, you either have to be famous, like be Mindy Kaling
Right.
in like a month,
Right.
or it's like, I probably can't do that, or start a blog. And I I didn't know what to do. It's like, do I do it in the voice of this girl? Like, how would this take form? And then it became really clear to me when I started, talking about like what I could do with my friends, and the answer was just kind of right in front of me. It's like, use that same sort of
Right.
poetry structure that you use in the book, but just make it kind of bite sized. So I went ahead, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do this. I think I'm having fun with it, but I don't know if anyone's gonna like it. So I made it, and then I just kind of like went right back to my agent. I was like, look what I'm doing. Here, I have like 100 followers. This is great. And it wasn't cutting it. It wasn't cutting it. But it was when I added the hashtags that people were able to find it, and then more so when I accumulated about 10 different poems that I did. I thought it was like a nice representation of what the account was about. So from there, I went and I reached out to BuzzFeed. I reached out to I go on BuzzFeed every day. It's like a little guilty pleasure. I do their little quizzes and everything. And it's totally, catered toward 20 somethings, just getting that like bite-sized, fun, colorful information. So I reached out to an editor there who I thought would really enjoy it. And I just kind of like cold emailed her. I saw a few articles she did. One was like the 7 hipsters you'd find in a coffee shop. And I wrote to her, I'm like, hey, like, I'm totally hipster number 5. Anyway, I think you might enjoy this content. And then in typical BuzzFeed fashion, she wrote something back like, OMG, I die, live tomorrow, something like that. She was wonderful.
Oh my God.
And yeah, and then it got on the front page of BuzzFeed, which was nuts. And then it just kind of snowballed from there in terms of followers. It was really fun to watch.
Wow, that's awesome. What comes
Yeah.
first for you, the poem or the drawing? What's your process if you want to talk about it?
Yeah, it's the poem first. It's
Okay.
definitely the poem. It's the idea behind the poem. So I'll be sitting there and having like a thought, like there'll be a little truth that I think of, and then I sit down, and then it's about trying to make that truth funny in terms of rhyming. So I try to shape it and try to make it rhyme, because I think beneath all the poems there's just like a sad little single tear truth. So you have to make it funny, or else it's just like, if I posted just the straight up sentences that I would write down, it's like, oh, that's dark. Like, that's not funny at all. So I have to make it funny. And then afterwards, I just kind of try to wrap it up. I have a Wacom tablet and a digital pen, so I just draw everything on there. And I try to keep it pretty simple. I try not to make the illustrations like be too, like say too much.
Yeah.
I try to keep it super, just like complimenting the poem in that sort of way. And
Yeah, I mean, I think
so that's the
what
process.
that's what works, I mean, it's just that it so perfectly goes along or complements the poem. Um,
Oh, thanks.
how like any given day, how many do you have going? Do you have them always kind of rattling around, or do you keep it to like not getting overwhelmed, certain amount a day? How does that work?
It depends. Some days I'll have like 10 poems, I swear, just 10, that I'll just like, I'll get in some sort of mode, especially when I was writing the book and then we had decided to break it down into categories. It really
Right.
made sense for me to just think in the mode of like, okay, weddings. Like,
Yeah.
I have so many sad poems about weddings. So I'll just kind of riff on that for a little bit. And then other days I won't have anything, because maybe I'll actually be having a good day and it'll be good.
Right.
And there won't be any sad poems to write. So it really depends. Right now, I want to build up more content. I want to come up with more poems, because I definitely wrote a lot of them just for the book. So
Okay.
it was many months of just sitting and just doing poems, poems, poems. So kind of like regathering and thinking of some new ones.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. That's something I'm trying to do now.
That was one of my questions was, are these in this book, are they all original? Did you pull some that, didn't get as many eyes on your blog, or you just straight up wrote everything for this book?
I did include about, I want to say about like 45 or 50 of like the greatest hits, I guess,
Yeah.
from the greatest hits from the blog. Just ones that I thought resonated with a lot of people. And people who pick up the book aren't necessarily people who follow the blog.
Right.
And then I did about like 110 brand new poems just for the book. I wanted to, give the reader
Yeah.
something exclusive, something that just they could
Right.
have.
Um,
That was important to me.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm curious, it just seems like it's such a good voice for something like, say, the Betches or something like that. Has anyone like that reached out to you and maybe wants to collaborate or anything like that? Because you could do this for anything.
Ah, I've kept it kind of my own
Okay.
thing. Kind of kept quarter life poetry its own little voice. I love collaborating, but this is like it's just a little, something I do. And then also I'm working, from the promo videos, I'm working on kind of like a series idea. So I'm trying to
Yeah.
keep the whole quarter life poetry thing in its own world.
Well, yeah, the videos for the promo for this book are amazing. They're so perfect, they're quick, and by the time you're done, you're laughing so hard because they're so true. I was going to ask you, is that its own separate thing? Are you going to keep that going? What's happening with that?
Yeah, I wanted to do the promo videos firstly because I wanted to do some sort of give something else like
Right,
to readers or people who could be interested because I would think it's quite boring if people, go online and they see, oh, here's so many people have covered quarter life poetry before that when it came to announcing the book, I wanted to give something new. It's more
right,
interesting to say like oh, here is a bunch of new videos from quarter
right.
life poetry. By the way, there's a book coming out, as opposed to here's that same slideshow we showed you earlier. Also,
Right.
there's a book coming out. So from there, I wanted to do something new. And then I teamed up with Arturo Perez, who's a great director, great writer. So we
Okay.
co-wrote them together. And, I live in LA, I'm an actress. And Arturo's a director. And we're always collaborating, like looking for ways to just kind of do new projects. And quarter life poetry was kind of like living over here as a book. And then
Right.
the acting writing thing was living over here. So kind of doing these promo videos, it just became this perfect way to merge these two interests into something like super dark and super
Yeah.
fun. So right now what we're doing is these promo videos are like a really great like proof of concept for what a
Yep.
series could look like
Absolutely.
about this sad girl. So that's what we're working on right now.
Absolutely. And what's great about them too is like I was watching them and I was thinking, "Oh my God, these are so much like those fantastic BuzzFeed, things that you see on your Facebook feed all the time." And I'm like, "But these are a little different. Like they're a little fresher, they're fun and just as funny, like and really well done, by the way. The production is beautiful on
Thank you. Yeah, it was important to us to make them really cinematic. I mean, we wanted to separate them completely from BuzzFeed videos, they're super funny, but they're very run and gun,
Yeah,
very much a
absolutely.
video element in there. And we wanted to ground this in more of like a cinematic kind of thing because I think a lot of the humor comes from the fact
Yeah.
that they're shot, like the heaviness of the shots are
Right.
like so serious, but you're dealing with something so ridiculous,
Yeah,
like a pizza
exactly.
day. We really liked that juxtaposition, and that's what we wanted to go for. So
Well,
yeah.
you definitely nailed it on that one. They're really great. What
Thank you.
about how long does say are all illustrations, do they take you just each one takes the same amount of time? Does some take a little longer? What kind of how
Some,
quickly can you get them done?
yeah, some take a little longer. It's funny. The reason why I went with this illustration style, for two reasons. I went to school for fine arts. I grew up doing fine arts. I grew up doing oils and charcoals, and
Okay.
I really had to like pull myself back to create an illustration style that I was really able to do very quickly because I didn't want to overthink it. I just wanted to kind of
Right.
like get it out there, and then I really wanted it to have that childlike quality that children's books do, because I think it's important to. I think personally, I think it's funnier if you see an illustration and it looks like something that like you could have done yourself, like in the side of a notebook while you were crying in a meeting, as opposed to seeing this poem and then seeing this like perfectly shaded three-dimensional. Yeah. So I decided early on that I wanted to make them very like crude and sketchy for those two reasons. Actually, I I did have a first round of the book that I did where, I found out that this was going to be the book now. Like
Okay.
this was becoming the book. And I was like, oh my God, like I have to prove myself as an artist now. I have to like whip out my Michelangelo brain and make something like truly, yeah, like I have to change the style completely. So I did about 60 poems in the style that's just, it was very like ornate, and I used shading, and I went crazy. I just absolutely went crazy. And then I went back and I looked at it and I showed it to some friends. I showed it to Arturo too. And I was like, I don't know, like what do you think? And they said, absolutely not. Like, no. You need to go back. You are overthinking it. You need to keep that very like childlike style because
Absolutely.
that's what it is. That's the brand. Like, don't overthink it. I'm glad I did, and I'm glad that's the style I ended up sticking with because I think it's a little bit funnier in a
Yeah,
way. But I'm also able to
absolutely.
do it pretty quickly, which is good.
Yeah. So, do you ever get like outside requests now that I mean, you've gotten super popular, your numbers are amazing. Do you get like people like, oh, I want something like this, or can you draw this, or do you take those for your own inspiration too?
I've had brands reach out to me. I haven't taken any partnerships yet just because I would want to do it in a way where it's genuine, like not disingenuous, like I'm not like shouting the brand name,
Right.
and because people can see through that. And my whole account is about seeing through things and seeing the way things really are. So I think when, you have a brand name in a poem, or you're like very overtly
Right.
advertising or pushing something, the audience sees through that. Like they're very smart. So I would want it to be, something that I believe in if I were to do
Yeah.
something like that. But then in terms of just ideas,
Yeah,
I
like
used to
general
have
public.
on my, yeah, in my original quarter life poetry site, I ended up not using them,
Okay.
but I had this one section where I said submit a poem because I was just really curious.
Hmm.
And I ended up not using any of the poetry that came in, but I had a really good time looking through some of the submitted poetry because they weren't in the right format. They were like some I got were about 3 pages long of just waxing poetic about breakups and frozen yogurt. It was amazing, and it was like so fun to read. But I listened to what they submitted. I listened to the type of the the tone and like the kind of topics that they submitted. So yeah, I take inspiration from what people want to share, and then I also take inspiration from my friends. If we're having a conversation about what's important in their lives right now, I would think it would be important to write about in the poetry.
Absolutely. So, to share the info, as we talked about, you're doing these videos. So you said you're gonna keep doing them. There's more in store, and possibly even something bigger down the road. Is that a possibility, or just like hoping
The
for it?
videos, the videos themselves they're self-contained.
Okay.
I don't think I would be able to eat if I kept doing those videos. We would need to like, we're working towards kind of creating a narrative, kind
Okay.
of creating a series. So if anything, those are kind of like proof of concept, or just kind of setting the tone for what could come if we get like
Got
funding
it.
for
Okay.
for some sort of series. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
exciting. What about more books? Do you have anything in mind, like maybe a continuation of this series, or do you want to write other books? Anything like that?
Um, I would love to share the book that I originally wrote,
Okay.
about, the narrative of the girl going through the quarter life crisis. I
Yeah.
illustrated it and everything. It's done. It's ready to go.
Yeah.
So I would love to eventually share that. And then, I mean, I know these poems are silly, they're easy to digest, but I also write, I love writing essays. I love writing uh, different stories of my experiences. And right now I'm finding that satisfaction in terms of writing the script. But I would love to keep writing. I would love to write a different kind of book for sure. It's been a great experience.
What about, I mean, these poems, the illustrations, they're so perfect for merchandising. Would you ever consider doing, say, poems or art on t-shirts or anything like that, just for your own personal, like to share through your website kind of thing?
I've been thinking about that, and
Yeah?
actually, you are not the first person to say that. Yeah, yeah, there have been a bunch of people being like, "Ah, these should be like little cards, little posters."
Yeah.
I did do like a small batch of prints, but it's very, very small,
Okay.
just to kind of test it out and see how they looked. But
Okay.
I think that would be a super fun thing.
Yeah,
So it's a good
yeah.
idea.
I
I would
would.
love to do that.
Some of these, they're just so relatable that you're like, oh my God, I need that on a coffee mug or or a paper pad or something.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So I
I'll
wanted
do
to
that.
ask you about, you're talking about that you're an actress. Um, I saw, and maybe it's wrong, or sometimes IMDb is, but you're supposed to be in a new comedy, Luck Boxes. Is that something you can talk about, can't talk about?
That's a pilot. That's a
Okay.
pilot that I was cast in, completely separate of Quarter Life Poetry.
Yeah.
So I think they're presenting to networks, and we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Good luck on that. What about any other projects that you're working on?
The series is really the biggest thing right now. And then, I'm also just a working actress, going in, sitting with a group of 50 other blonde girls and and testing my luck. So there's always that. But the series is what I'm like stoked about. It's so easy to write what
Right.
and it kind of it when I'm writing about experiences that I've been through, it sort of validates them in a way. It's like,
Absolutely.
oh, cool. I didn't totally feel like my life was falling apart for nothing. There's content there. There's a
Right.
story. So it's pretty cathartic. It makes me feel better that I'm able to write about that. Yeah, yeah.
Well, we can't not talk about, books and authors that we're reading because that's kind of the point of us here at BookTrib. So, do you have any favorite authors or books that you're currently reading or on your TBR list?
Ooh, I mean, right now I'm not reading anything poetry related. I'm
Okay.
reading the Jonathan Franzen book, The Corrections, right now. And
Yeah.
then yeah, yeah. And then I don't know. I mean, I have a bunch of books I want to read. I really want to read uh what's the Amy Poehler book? The one she wrote about yeah, there's so many like female like comedians slash
Yeah.
authors who are like coming out with books right now just about their experiences. Like Tina Fey's book,
Yeah, that was good.
The Girl Boss,
Yeah.
Boss Lady, Girl Boss by the woman who created Nasty Gal. Like those kind of
Okay.
books are the ones that are on my queue right now because I'm really interested just like how they shaped their careers
Definitely.
and their paths because it wasn't a linear path.
Right.
So yeah, those are the books that I really want to dig into
I don't
next.
know about you, but I need an Amy Schumer book like yesterday.
Me too. It needs to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
It'll be great. Yeah.
Definitely. What about, are you like a big TV fan? Is there anything that you're like hardcore binging right now?
I am super into Game of Thrones, so I was very, very happy when it came back on yesterday.
Oh,
I was like,
nice.
oh, I was so happy. What else? I've started watching the show Love on Netflix. I always watch Amy Schumer. I always watch Broad City. Broad City's hilarious. And what else? I don't know. I don't have cable, so I have to like go out of my way to like really
Find
just
it.
sit down
Yeah.
and watch something. But I've been watching the newest City of Broad City, and I would say that's just one of my favorite shows. Those girls are hilarious.
Okay.
And
I haven't checked it out
yeah,
yet, but
yeah,
it's on my to watch list.
it's so good.
All right.
They're so funny.
I'll have
It's
to
just
give it
ridiculous
a
humor,
look.
just like larger than life.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we do have some questions down here that I want to get to before we close out here.
Yeah.
Carrie is asking, would you ever consider doing entertainment related poems or drawings?
Entertainment related how? Like,
Or
what do you think?
I'm not sure. I'm thinking like TV shows or maybe actors like joking around.
Oh,
That's when
I
I'm
don't
kind of writing
know.
it.
I haven't thought of that. I would say if it was in conjunction with the series that we're writing now, that would make a lot of sense.
So,
There have been some Beyonce poems floating around in my
okay.
brain because she's a boss and she's great, and everyone can relate to Beyonce. But I think, oh no, I did do one. I did a Game of Thrones poem,
Ooh.
but it was more about, yeah, it's in the book. Here, I had it with me just in case. First dates make me a nervous wreck. Can we just skip ahead to burping loudly as we binge on Game of Thrones in bed?
There you go. That's awesome.
There's an entertainment poem right
There
there.
you go. That's perfect. Um,
Yeah.
same person, Carrie, saying, do you have a favorite poem or illustration that you've done maybe so far?
Oh, my favorite poem. The poem that starts the book, the cactus poem, it's my friend has a baby and owns a boutique. I just bought a cactus. It died in a week. This one, that one, I literally like it happened to me. Like I was sitting, I have a chair over there. I was sitting there, and I have like a line of dead succulents, like literally right there. And I was looking at the cactus, and I looked back. I was just on Facebook, and this not even a friend, like an acquaintance from high school.
Right.
I saw that she was like just pregnant with her second baby, and she just opened like a children's boutique. And I like just looked over at just my dead cactus, and I was like, oh my God, it just wrote itself.
Right,
So,
exactly.
yeah,
So
it's the
perfect.
ones that come really easily that are my favorite. So that one's a favorite for sure.
Okay, very cool. Amanda, do you have a collection of poems and drawings that didn't make the final cut? Could you share any with
Ooh, yeah, there were a bunch. I don't know if I remember off the top of my head. There was one like pubic hair poem that was a little much. Um, uh, Something about finding a gray hair. Yeah, it was a little too much. But I did a ton of poems, and then I worked with like my editor to kind of just cull them down.
Right, right.
I would say the ones that didn't make the cut just weren't working. Like
Okay.
they weren't as funny.
Yeah.
Or they were just like a little too forced. So I don't know.
All
I'll
right.
try to remember the pubic hair one, and then maybe it'll pop up on the maybe it'll pop up on the
Like,
Instagram
an
sometime.
exclusive what didn't make the cut section.
Yeah, the failed poems of quarter life poetry.
I bet you they would do great.
Maybe, hopefully. Then it'll be material for the second book.
There we go.
How about that?
So Amanda is also
Yeah.
asking, I love the poem about your cat as your soulmate. Do you think the world is warming up to crazy cat ladies? What a great question.
Oh, I hope so. Cats are great companions.
Aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, is the world warming up to crazy cat ladies? Probably not if you call yourself a crazy cat lady, but if you call yourself like a strong, independent woman
With
who
a cat.
happens to have a cat
Exactly.
with a cat, I would say the world is absolutely warming up to that, and I think that there should be more of those.
I happen to completely agree with you. All right, so before we end, I want to do a quick rapid fire section. A little this or that questions, see what we can get from you. Netflix or Hulu?
Netflix.
This one might be a little tough. Instagram or Tumblr?
Instagram, Right. Different reasons,
Okay.
different things for different reasons. Instagram, because you can just like share and tag your friends super, super quickly.
Okay.
And Tumblr, I follow a lot of accounts on Tumblr that are like super artistic and well curated design wise, and I just like their whole portfolio. So, different things for different reasons. Right now, Instagram,
Okay.
I like.
Cool.
Yeah.
Reading
Yeah.
or writing?
Mm. Right now, writing, but I think you need to read in order to write. Like, you need to read in order to know what kind of things you would like to write.
Absolutely.
But I like doing. I like just doing it. So I would say writing.
All right. TV or books?
TV. I love TV. It's so easy.
No
It just,
thinking involved.
you don't have to like move your eyes around. You don't have to process the words. You don't have to imagine anything. It's
So true.
they just do it right for you. You know, it's the ultimate lazy treat.
All right, so maybe this is a little different, or maybe this is the same, but which edition, the movie or the book?
Oh, okay. Movie.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I just like, well, you mean like if you see it, if you
Like say
have a
Hunger
book
Games,
and then it
book
becomes a
or the
movie?
movie? Which draws you more? Reading the Hunger Games series or watching the Hunger Games series?
I mean, it's more like sexy, the visuals of watching it.
Okay.
I think there's, when things become movies and TV from books, you get a lot of like compound characters and
Right.
you get a lot of like the sexy factor going up and like the meaningful factor going down sometimes.
Totally.
And like the little nuances aren't really like translated. So I would say like seeing a movie for like that flashy component and just seeing what they do, like seeing how it's translated like from your brain, if it's
Right.
even the same thing. Or but the book for kind of like the nuanced little like the details of it. There's something nice about keeping something open-ended and like in your fantasy brain.
Yeah, like only you are envisioning that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Well,
So movies are important because when I read Harry Potter, I think the first like 3 books I pronounced Hermione Hermione.
yep.
So I was just reading the whole thing.
Same.
And I was like, Hermione is doing this. Because it's like, I don't know, that name doesn't happen in New Jersey.
Right.
So, and then I saw the Harry Potter and it's like,
Oh,
Hermione.
that's what it is. I know. Same.
That's what, I'm an idiot. So it can set you straight sometimes. So it's good
So
for that
true.
too.
Yeah, you hope that the author's helping you out with that one.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Samantha, thank you so much for joining us. Everyone, Quarter Life Poetry, go grab it. It's fantastic, so fun. And if not, Instagram, Tumblr, you're going to find her there. So definitely send a shout out. Thank you so much for joining us. It was such a pleasure today. I had so much fun.
Me too. I had so much fun. I love the rapid fire questions especially. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Bye, everyone.